Close your eyes, standing outside a small village on a warm evening. The sky is dark, filled with bright, twinkling stars. This quiet moment is entirely yours. It smells of damp earth and something sweet from the grapes. A rough clay jar sits near a crackling open fire. Inside, something strange is changing right now. Tiny bubbles rise slowly to the surface of the liquid. The grape juice inside is becoming something completely new. Nobody planned this sudden ration in the heat. Nobody knew what would happen next in the dark. But something beautiful and powerful was finally born. This simple, sweet liquid would become wine for humanity. It started as a pure accident in the hot sun. Grapes fermented in the warmth without any human help. Early humans found this sweet drink only by pure chance. They did not intend to create this new substance. Yet nature worked its own magic inside that clay jar. Now take a close look at that ancient vessel. You hold the first wine in your mind today. This humble liquid would change everything forever after. Empires would rise and fall over its rich taste. Wars would be fought to control its global trade. Kings would drink from cups like this one often. The story of our species is deeply tied to wine. We will explore how this drink shaped human history. It brought great joy but also created great danger. Today you stand on that ancient, rolling hill. Listen to the wild vines. The past is waiting for you to hear it. We must understand the dark side of this gift. It was not just a drink for a party. You hold a glass in your hand right now, feeling the cool weight against your palm. This liquid connects you to ritual from 8,000 years ago. It is not just a beverage for a thirsty person. It was once worshipped as a mysterious gift from the gods themselves. This same drink built mighty empires and destroyed them with a single cup. Yet it is still in your glass today, waiting for you to take a sip. Do you know exactly what this ancient substance is? The answer is hidden in the vines climbing the hills before you. If this story gives you calm and wonder, I would love for you to stay with us. Every story here is made with care, and it is made for you. Leave a like and find the subscribe button to join our journey. We will walk through time together and see how this simple fruit changed everything. 8,000 years ago, the mountains of the South Caucasus stood tall and misty. A small village rested quietly in the shadow of these ancient peaks. Wild grapes grew freely on the steep hillsides there. Farmers watched the vines climb higher and higher and higher every single year. They did not know they were holding the key to a new world. The sun warmed the soil and the air smelled of rain and earth. Take a close look at the green leaves trembling in the wind. They hid a secret that would change the fate of nations. The first humans tasted the sweet juice and felt a strange peace. They believed the gods had poured this nectar from the sky. Soon the taste spread beyond the valley and into the hearts of kings. Empires rose to protect the vineyards and wars were fought over the harvest. The object started familiar and innocent but ended up as a tool of power. We must understand how this transformation happened over many generations. You are standing in that village with us, breathing this same cool air. Listen to the rustling of leaves in the gentle mountain breeze. This is where our story begins, far before history books were written. The grapes grew wild and tamed in that specific place alone. No other region on Earth had such perfect conditions for this fruit. The cold nights and warm days created the perfect balance for sweetness. Farmers learned to pick the berries at just the right moment. They crushed them gently to release the dark, rich flavor. The juice flowed into simple clay pots and began to ferment. The smell was intoxicating and drew people from miles away. They traded their goods for this precious liquid that made them feel strong. The sound of laughter echoed through the village square after the harvest. Children played near the vines while elders told stories of the past. This quiet stillness is where the magic truly started for everyone. We will explore the dark secrets hidden behind this golden liquid soon. But first, let us honor the simple beauty of this ancient landscape. The mountains loomed over the village like silent guardians of the land. Their peaks touched the clouds and blocked the harsh winter winds. The soil was rich and dark, perfect for the hungry roots below. Rain fell softly on the leaves and filled the small streams nearby. Every drop of water helped the vines grow strong and healthy. The farmers worked hard to protect their crops from pests and storms. They believed the spirits of the mountains watched over their labor. This deep connection to the earth shaped their entire way of life. They did not just eat the fruit, but honored the whole plant. The leaves, the stems, and the roots all had a purpose in their world. This reverence for nature is why the drink feels so special today. We carry that same respect in every bottle we open and drink. The story of wine is the story of humanity itself, you see. It started with a single grape and a single act of worship. That act grew into a tradition that spans thousands of years and continents. We are all part of that same lineage of tasters and makers. As you watch the video, remember the weight of history in your hand. The glass is a bridge between the modern world and the ancient past. Press your hands down hard into a pile of dark purple grapes until the skins burst and release their sweet, sticky juice. Now picture those raw liquids being poured carefully into rough and glazed clay jars that feel cool and heavy in your grip. Once the jars are full, you seal the openings with wet mud and bury them deep beneath the cool, dark soil of an ancient hillside. You think you are simply storing food for winter. But one careless moment changes the entire course of human history forever. Someone walks past the buried storage pit and forgets exactly where they left one specific jar. Hidden in the dirt, the lid of the clay vessel might have cracked slightly, or the mud seal could have dried out and cracked under the heat. For days the liquid sits silently underground. But soon weeks pass and the sun continues its relentless journey across the sky. Then something invisible happens in the quiet darkness of the buried jar that no one at the time could possibly understand. Tiny organisms too small to see with any human eye drift down from the air and land directly into the sweet juice. These microscopic travelers arrive from the dust above and begin to multiply rapidly inside the warm, sugary liquid. They do not just sit there. They actively change the chemistry of the drink in ways that transform its very nature. The clear juice begins to bubble and fizz as these tiny life forms eat the sugar and release carbon dioxide gas. The liquid turns from a flat, fermented fruit juice into something completely new with a complex and surprising flavor profile. This is the moment the first wine is born in history, created entirely by an accident of nature and human negligence. Nobody meant to make wine when they first buried that jar. Yet the result was intoxicatingly good and deeply satisfying. The feeling in your stomach after drinking it was warm and welcoming, making people want to drink it again and again. Can you imagine how a single forgotten container could alter the culture, trade, and religion of entire civilizations for thousands of years? That one mistake in a forgotten field changed everything for everyone who ever lived after that specific moment in time. Fast forward to the modern era where science finally catches up with this ancient mystery to reveal the truth. In the year 2017, a team of dedicated signed physical proof of this legend. They discovered the oldest winery on Earth located in the small nation of Georgia in that same southern region. The archaeological evidence confirmed that humans were making wine by accident long before they understood the science behind it. The hillsides of Georgia still hold the secrets of this first forgotten jar that started it all for the whole world. The journey from a simple mistake to a global industry shows us how fragile and powerful human history truly can be. We see now that great inventions often start not in a laboratory but in a forgotten corner of a dusty field. This story of wine is really just a story about how we learn from our own accidents and mistakes over time. The ripple effects starting from that single buried vessel. It was not planned, yet it became a cornerstone of empires. Consider how the smell of fermentation spread across continents. Think about the first trade routes built to carry this golden liquid. Now reflect on the religious ceremonies that would later be built around this drink. The accidental discovery of fermentation reshaped daily life in ways we still see today. It changed how people celebrated, how they stored food, and how they thought about time itself. The scientists in Georgia found pottery shards that proved this process happened naturally. They analyzed the residue on ancient vessels and found traces of wild yeast. This discovery proves that our ancestors were not just lucky but were guided by nature. The warmth of the soil acted as an incubator for these tiny creatures. The sweetness of the grapes provided the perfect fuel for their growth. Without this specific combination of heat, sugar, and air all mixes with a sudden, quiet realization that tradition is fragile and easily broken by the relentless march of empires, we witness the miracle of Georgia, where the same clay vessels and methods survive unchanged after centuries of change. The story shifts to Egypt, a hot land where the Nile allowed grapes to thrive while the sun baked the soil dry. Egyptians learned to make wine, and they learned to love it deeply as a daily necessity for their celebrations and feasts. To them, wine was not just a drink, but a sacred gift from the gods above who watched over the fields. A god named Osiris taught humans to grow grapes and to press them into liquid gold that flowed like sunlight. Osiris was the god of life and death, bridging the gap between the living and the dead with his powerful magic. Wine was his gift, something that existed between this world and the next, offering peace to the wandering souls. Pharaohs were buried with wine, lots of it, to ensure they had comfort in the afterlife when their bodies rested in silence. When a pharaoh died, people filled hundreds of jars with his favorite wine blend, mixing flavors from his entire kingdom. They sealed the jars tightly with wax and resin to keep the air out forever and stop the wine from turning to vinegar. They wrote on them the name, the year, and the place where the grapes grew under the watchful eye of the stars. In 2004, scientists opened one of these jars in a dusty museum laboratory, expecting to find nothing but empty stone and dust. It was very old, 3,000 years old, yet it held secrets of the past that had survived the passage of time. But inside, traces of wine remained, preserved by the dry heat of the desert that acted as a natural preservative. Not just wine, but blended wine. Wine from different places mixed together carefully to create a perfect harmony of taste. Egyptians knew how to create something new by combining flavors from distant lands, showing early signs of their great culinary skill. They were already artists, crafting a composition that honored the dead and the living in equal measure with great respect. The pharaoh was not just drinking. He was tasting a composition made by his people to show his wealth and power. Him there in the darkness of his tomb, surrounded by jars, surrounded by memory, surrounded by time, drinking his final feast. But wine was about to become much bigger than just a drink for the dead or a simple pleasure for the living. Rome grew, and its legions marched across the known world with iron and ambition, conquering lands from the west to the east. And wherever Rome went, too, carried in wooden barrels by slaves and merchants who traveled long and dangerous roads. The demand for wine exploded, turning a local tradition into a massive industry that fed the hungry armies of the empire. Vast vineyards appeared overnight, stretching across the hills of Gaul and the rocky slopes of Spain to meet the endless need. This expansion changed the landscape forever, replacing forests with rows of grapevines that climbed the sun-drenched slopes in neat lines. The old ways of Georgia remained, but the scale of wine production had shifted to serve an empire that needed to feed thousands. The clay jars of the past gave way to wooden casks and eventually to glass bottles that could be traded across the sea. This shift was not just about convenience. It was about control and the desire to own the land itself.